You weren't born weak. You were trained to be. From the moment you entered this world, you were told to be nice, to be agreeable, to avoid conflict, to keep the peace even when it killed your spirit. But here's the truth no one dares to tell you. Weakness isn't inherited. It's a habit, a learned pattern of surrender. And the moment you realize that, your transformation begins. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But few understand what he really meant. He wasn't preaching cruelty. He was warning against submission. He knew that in life people respect power, not please. And that's what this video is about. How the wise, from kings to warriors to modern thinkers, saw weakness not as a tragedy, but as a choice. Lesson 1: The world respects strength, not fairness. We live in an age obsessed with fairness. We want balance, justice, equality, and yet, those who rise highest never wait for fairness. They create leverage. Machiavelli observed this during his time in Renaissance Italy. A world of betrayal, shifting alliances, and power masked behind smiles. He saw that those who survived were not the most moral, but the most strategic. When you expect fairness, you give away control. You start believing that life owes you something, when in truth it owes you nothing. So the strong adapt. They don't ask for mercy, they demand results. Every time you complain about what's unfair, you feed your own weakness. Affirmation: I do not beg for fairness. I create my own balance. Lesson 2: Comfort is the silent poison. There's a hidden danger that kills ambition quietly. Comfort. Weakness often disguises itself as peace. The peace of routine, of safety, of predictable mediocrity. You think you're stable. In reality, you're stagnant. Machiavelli warned rulers never to grow complacent in times of peace. Because peace breeds softness, and softness invites conquest. The same rule applies to your personal life. Think of the Roman Empire. It wasn't destroyed by barbarians first. It was destroyed by luxury, by indulgence, by forgetting the hunger that built it. If you always seek comfort, you are training yourself to be conquered. Affirmation: I choose discomfort, because comfort is the enemy of growth. Lesson 3: Emotions are tools, not masters. Weak people drown in emotions. Strong people use them. You can feel fear but not bow to it. You can feel anger and still control it like a blade. Machiavelli's prince understood this perfectly. Passion was necessary, but only when directed toward purpose. Carl Jung echoed the same truth centuries later. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. When your emotions rule you, you are predictable. And when you are predictable, you are manipulable. So the next time you feel rage, insecurity, or sadness, don't resist it. Observe it, dissect it, and turn it into data. Because mastery isn't the absence of emotion, it's command over it. Affirmation: My emotions serve me. I do not serve them. Lesson 4: Pity is a weapon used against you. Every time someone makes you feel guilty for being strong, they are trying to control you. Weakness feeds on pity. It seeks validation through suffering, not victory. And the world rewards this because it keeps people tame. But here's a Machiavellian truth. The appearance of virtue can be used as a cage. When society praises humility, it often means, stay small, stay manageable. When it tells you to be kind, it often means, don't be assertive. Real power comes when you recognize this manipulation and choose to stand firm, even when others call you cruel. Napoleon once said, if you want to be great, do not seek to be understood, because greatness rarely looks gentle. Affirmation: I do not seek pity. I seek power through self-control. Lesson 5: The psychology of weakness, learned helplessness. There's a reason why weakness feels familiar. It's learned behavior. Psychologists discovered that when people experience repeated failure or pain, they stop trying altogether. Even when escape or success is possible, they stay trapped, because their mind has been conditioned to believe it's useless. This is called learned helplessness. Machiavelli would have called it voluntary servitude, the state of being chained by one's own belief. Most people never break this cycle because it's comfortable. It gives them an excuse. A reason to say, "It's not my fault." But if you are watching this, you're different. You are not meant to be ordinary. You are meant to recognize that weakness is nothing but a story, and you can rewrite it starting today. Affirmation: I reject helplessness. I choose responsibility, even when it's painful. Lesson 6: The ruthless beauty of self-reliance. The moment you depend too much on others, you hand them the strings to your life. Machiavelli advised rulers never to rely on mercenaries or allies who could turn on them. He said, "Mercenaries and auxiliaries are useless and dangerous." Translate that into modern life. When you rely on validation, approval, or rescue from others, you've already surrendered your power. You become the puppet, and they hold the strings. The powerful build their own foundation, emotionally, financially, mentally. So when the world collapses, they stand. Remember this: every time you say, "I need someone to save me," your strength dies a little. Every time you say, "I will save myself," it multiplies. Affirmation: I am my own foundation. My power is self-made. Lesson 7: The cold art of detachment. Weakness often comes from attachment, to people, to opinions, to outcomes. Machiavelli taught that rulers must learn to act against mercy, faith, or kindness when necessary for survival. He didn't glorify cruelty. He understood necessity. You can love deeply, but not cling. You can care, but not depend. Because dependence breeds fear, fear of loss, rejection, and change. The Stoics called this amor fati, love of fate, to accept whatever happens without breaking. In modern terms, you must learn to care without being controlled. When you detach from outcomes, you stop reacting. You start directing. Affirmation: I control what I can. I release what I cannot. Up to this point, you've begun to see that weakness isn't something that happens to you. It's something you choose every time you surrender control, comfort, or accountability. But now we go deeper into the psychological roots and the methods of turning weakness into a weapon. Lesson 8: Pain is the currency of power. Every transformation begins with pain. Not comfort, not ease, pain. But here's the paradox. Most people flee from it while the powerful chase it, because they understand that pain reveals what comfort hides. Machiavelli wrote that the wise man does at once what the fool does finally. Meaning, the strong confront their suffering before it destroys them. They don't wait for collapse to teach them discipline. In modern life, we numb pain with entertainment, distraction, indulgence. But pain is a teacher. It's the voice that says, "You are not who you could be." If you run from that voice, you run from your own evolution. Think of a blacksmith. Metal becomes a sword only by surviving fire. The same is true for you. You cannot become formidable if you always avoid the heat. Affirmation: I embrace pain as my proof of progress. Suffering refines me, not destroys me. Lesson 9: Weakness hides behind good intentions. This one hurts because it exposes the lies we tell ourselves. Sometimes we hide our fear behind virtue. We say, "I didn't fight back because I'm kind," or "I didn't speak up because I didn't want to cause conflict." But deep down, it's not kindness. It's cowardice wearing a halo. Robert Greene once said, "Never appear too perfect, but never appear too soft." Because both extremes invite attack, one out of envy, the other out of contempt. When you pretend your inaction is moral, you start confusing weakness for goodness. And soon, you begin to resent those who are bolder, because they mirror what you've refused to become. Machiavelli warned that men forget more easily the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance. Why? Because when something threatens our comfort or pride, our true nature emerges. Stop pretending your restraint is noble when it's really fear. The world doesn't reward invisible virtue. It respects decisive strength. Affirmation: My goodness does not come from fear. My restraint comes from strength. Lesson 10: The mirror of conflict. Every confrontation in life is a mirror. It shows you what you still fear. When someone disrespects you and you say nothing, it's not peacekeeping. It's avoidance. And avoidance is weakness in disguise. Conflict is not your enemy. It's your reflection. It reveals the boundaries you haven't built and the confidence you haven't claimed. Machiavelli observed that princes who avoided conflict invited rebellion. Because when people sense hesitation, they test your limits. The same rule applies in every relationship, every career, every negotiation. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. Silence, when it should be resistance, becomes submission. But when you face conflict with composure, not rage, not fear, you project authority. And authority commands respect far deeper than kindness ever could. Affirmation. I meet conflict with calm power. I do not avoid it. I master it. Lesson 11. Weakness multiplies when you explain yourself. The strong rarely explain. The weak always justify. Think about it. Every time you over-explain a decision, a boundary, or a belief, you invite negotiation over your power. Machiavelli taught that appearances shape perception more than words. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Power isn't about being understood. It's about being undeniable. When you feel the need to explain yourself constantly, you're seeking validation. And validation is a leash. Look at history's leaders, Alexander, Caesar, Churchill. They didn't ask for permission to lead. They declared their vision and expected the world to adjust. Explanations soften your stance. Silence paired with action amplifies it. So stop pleading to be understood. Let results do the talking. Affirmation. I do not explain strength. I demonstrate it. Lesson 12. Discipline, the weapon of the unbreakable. If there's one law that separates the weak from the powerful, it's discipline. The disciplined appear cold because they refuse emotional shortcuts. They appear detached because they have direction. And they appear ruthless because they do what others delay. Machiavelli would say, fortune favors the bold, but fortune also favors the consistent. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about persistence when motivation dies. It's waking up early when you feel like collapsing. It's saying no when your mind craves the comfort of yes. Every act of discipline sharpens your identity. It tells the world, I am not ruled by impulse. Modern psychology agrees. Self-discipline builds self-respect. And self-respect builds psychological power. Because when you trust your own word, you no longer need anyone else's approval. Affirmation. My discipline is my freedom. I obey my own command. Lesson 13. The strategic use of fear. Here's a truth most will never admit. Fear can be your most powerful ally when you direct it. Machiavelli famously wrote, it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. That line has been misunderstood for centuries. He didn't mean be cruel. He meant be respected enough that disobedience has a cost. Weakness invites exploitation because it carries no consequence. Fear, used wisely, creates boundaries faster than 1,000 kind words. You don't need to threaten people. You simply need to make it clear. You will not be disrespected twice. When people sense your self-respect, they act differently around you. Because fear, in its purest form, is not terror, it's reverence. Affirmation. I do not seek to be feared. I choose to be respected. Lesson 14. The power of stillness. There's one thing the weak can never understand. Stillness is not passivity. It's control. In a world of reaction, stillness is dominance. When others panic, the strong remain calm, and that calmness gives them command. Machiavelli said that a prince must be like the fox and the lion, cunning and fearless. Stillness is the fox's wisdom, knowing when to wait, watch, and strike only once. Think of Marcus Aurelius, facing wars and betrayal, yet writing in peace. If you are distressed by anything external, it is not the thing itself, but your judgment of it. That's power. Calm in chaos. Stillness under storm. The weak seek distraction. The powerful seek stillness because that's where strategy lives. Affirmation. My stillness is my strength. My silence holds power. You're starting to see it now, aren't you? Weakness isn't softness. It's surrender. It's every moment you trade your principles for comfort, your control for validation, your power for approval. But that ends here. Because in the final segment, we'll reveal how to weaponize this knowledge. How How to turn inner strength into silent dominance. Lesson 15. Strength is a moral duty. You owe it to yourself to be strong. But more importantly, you owe it to those who depend on you. Weakness doesn't just hurt you. It ripples outward. It burdens others with your indecision, your fear, your inability to stand firm when life demands it. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He believed that weakness in a leader led to chaos in the state. A prince's indecision was not private failure. It was public disaster. Translate that to today. When you refuse to take control of your emotions, your habits, your direction, others pay the price. Your family, your team, your future self. Strength, then, isn't arrogance. It's responsibility. It's the silent duty to become so capable that your existence brings order, not confusion. Affirmation. My strength is service. I rise not for ego, but for order. Lesson 16. Weakness is easier, that's why it's popular. Look around you. Most people live lives of quiet surrender, working jobs they hate, tolerating disrespect, numbing their pain with distraction. And they call it normal. But normal is just another word for weak. And weak is just another word for comfortable decay. Machiavelli never expected people to be moral. He expected them to be predictable. He wrote, "Men in general judge more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see but few can feel. The masses judge strength by appearance. They see confidence as arrogance, silence as coldness, control as detachment. That's why the strong are misunderstood, because they live by internal law, not public approval. Weakness, on the other hand, is socially rewarded. Society will tell you to be humble, docile, endlessly forgiving, not because it wants your peace, but because it fears your power. Be careful when the crowd praises your softness. They are celebrating your compliance. Affirmation. I do not seek approval. I seek mastery over myself. Lesson 17. Power is quiet, weakness is loud. The strong don't announce their strength. They don't need to. Weakness, however, shouts. Posts, it complains, it explains, it seeks validation through noise. Machiavelli knew this well. The most dangerous men in Florence were not the ones who threatened war, but the ones who smiled and said nothing. That's how real dominance works. It moves in silence, prepares quietly, strikes only once. In a world obsessed with attention, anonymity has become the new power. To remain unknown yet capable, that's true advantage. Weakness wants to be seen. Power wants to be felt. Affirmation. I move silently. My actions speak with precision and intent. Lesson 18. Every weakness is a decision. Here's the brutal truth. Every time you choose not to act, not to speak, not to face the storm, you decide to stay weak. Weakness is not a condition. It's a commitment. It's saying, I'd rather stay the same than suffer transformation. Machiavelli once wrote that fortune is like a woman. She favors the bold. Meaning, life itself responds to courage. Not talent, not luck, courage. You will always have two choices: to submit to the circumstances or to shape them. One leads to a quiet death in comfort. The other leads to glory and scars worth carrying. If you want to stop being weak, you don't need permission. You need a decision. Affirmation. I do not hope for strength. I decide to be strong. Lesson 19. Control is the final form of power. When Machiavelli spoke of the prince, he wasn't describing a tyrant. He was describing someone who understood control. Control over perception. Control over emotion. Control over timing. Most people fail not because they lack power, but because they misuse it. They react too soon, speak too fast, trust too easily, rage too openly. Control turns chaos into calculation. It transforms emotional storms into strategic moves. That's why self-control is the most intimidating form of dominance. Because when others try to provoke you, and you don't move, they realize they cannot reach you. And that realization breaks them. As Jung once said, the man who looks inward awakens. Control begins within by mastering the war in your own mind before you ever face one outside. Affirmation. I command my mind. Therefore, I command my world. Lesson 20. The cold freedom of self-respect. There is a unique peace that only the strong experience. The peace of not needing anyone's permission to exist as they are. Weakness is dependence. It's chasing validation from those who never respected you. It's asking for worth instead of defining it. Self-respect is liberation. It's the quiet rebellion that says, I am enough because I have mastered myself. Machiavelli said that power is perception, and the way you perceive yourself sets the boundaries for how others treat you. When you stop apologizing for your strength, the world starts negotiating with your standards. That's freedom. That's respect. Affirmation. I am my own validation. My respect begins and ends with me. Lesson 21. Weakness dies when you stop explaining your past. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a reason for being broken. But the moment you keep repeating it, you keep reliving it. Machiavelli would call that self-imprisonment. Because the past is a weapon for those who wish to control you through guilt or identity. Let go of it. Don't justify it. You are not what happened to you, you are what you chose to do next. Weakness keeps score. Strength starts over. When you stop explaining your scars, they become armor. Affirmation. My past is my forge. It shaped me, but it does not define me. You've now seen the blueprint. From comfort to pain, emotion to control, appearance to truth. Every form of weakness can be reversed. Because every act of strength is a choice. And every day you are given that choice again. Machiavelli's closing lesson. Machiavelli never worshipped cruelty. He worshipped clarity. He saw the world as it was, not as it pretended to be. And in that clarity, he discovered the ultimate law of power. Weakness is never respected, not even by those who demand it from you. To be strong does not mean to be heartless. It means to lead yourself even when no one follows. It means to hold your composure when chaos calls your name. It means to choose pain over stagnation and truth over comfort. Because the world doesn't belong to the loud, the emotional, or the righteous. It belongs to the disciplined, the strategic, and the quietly unbreakable. So remember this, every time you choose strength over comfort, silence over reaction, and control over chaos, you are living Machiavelli's lesson. You are proving that weakness was never a curse. It was a choice, and you have chosen differently.